So in this moment, just being here, just as you are. Everything is included. Nothing is divided. Everything is included in this moment. Really what grace and love and life is asking of us is to be here, just to be here so fully and not meandering in the realms of the mind's stories and beliefs and concepts that are limiting, right? And yet it's not to totally discard what dances in the landscape, because there's wisdom in everything. But we receive the wisdom through the feeling sensing field. We receive the wisdom through being present with and making worthy everything that is here in the field, right? So there's an incredible magic that happens in the technology of love, which we could translate to including everything. A kind of welcoming of everything that's not like an artificial trying to make out that you're okay with everything, but recognizing that presence, awake, aware presence, is actually present to everything. Presence touches everything. Awareness touches everything. There's an incredible intimacy. And so if we be with life from the true presence, the capacity that we have as consciousness to be the presence of now and touch everything, welcome everything by just being with everything that's here in the field right now. So receiving the whole field that is here, and what is here in your field, your landscape. That there can be these ideas of what we need to do, strategies, ideas, techniques, but actually what the intelligence that we're made of is inviting us is to be the intelligence that we're made of, and to realize the capacity that we have as the intelligence, as the consciousness that we're made of, and to realize that the identities that we create that are limiting are not the reality of who we are. In a way, whatever is arising in life, if there feels to be discordance, it's really to just stop and just be with what is here. That we can be wired through our conditioning and our protections to resist what is here. And one of the sneakiest ways that we resist what is here is by thinking about it and strategizing about it, and by thinking that there's something we need to do about it, right? And goodness, it seems so well intentioned, right? It seems so well intentioned to be thinking about it, like working on it, really analyzing it, all of the stuff. And we could even include that, like processing it, journaling about it. And that's not to discount that journaling and contemplation are not precious tools. But let's just, for this moment, just come to the possibility of the greater intelligence. That the mind loves the idea of a process in time. It loves the idea of creating an idea of something I will get in the future that I can work on, that's constantly confirming how I'm not good enough now and what I'm lacking now. Constantly confirming that there's something that's just out of reach to me. And if I could only, and if I can do this, then what I'm longing for will come into reach. And in a way, that's the great error, we could say, of the human condition, is the belief in time and space, and the belief in lack invites us into a kind of an idea that there's a future gain, which isn't actually the reality. Not the technology of reality, right? The technology of reality is that you are free now. And there's nothing that you have to do to improve upon yourself, work upon yourself, process in order to know the glory of God that is awake and radiant in your heart right now. No question, no one left out. Full stop, right? Right? Just notice as these words come, where the intelligence in you comes alive with a certain knowing, right? Sometimes it might make us just laugh a little or smile because we suddenly realize that the glory, the glory doesn't let us get away with anything, right? It's like, oh, you got me. And I thought I was being so committed to the divine by being in this inquiry. But the glory says, not even that, my love, not even that is needed to access the full greatness, the goodness that you are. And what the glory of God and the invitation is always offering is for us to come to reality, to recognize our true nature, and to just be present here for the fullness of what's awake in the field. The mind will never believe, and let's say even more clearly, it does not have the capacity to believe that it does not need to work upon itself. It's wired into the mind's mechanism because the mind is the protective mechanism that's bound in time and space. And it absolutely, unquestionably believes that it needs to work on itself because it is bad. And in order to be good, good enough, worthy, lovable, achieve, whatever, awakening, enlightenment, the revelation, that if I work on myself enough, if I prove myself, then sometime in the future, I will get what I'm working towards. But that isn't the technology of reality. It's not the way that the metaphysics are set up. And that's really like an incredibly heaping load of good news, right? Right? That's like really good news, right? Is that the revelation is here now. The revelation of the heart is right here now. And the invitation is to recognize that you are not a soul that is like a sinner that's made a mistake, that this life is a life of striving to try to redeem yourself. The reality of the glory of pure love, pure spotless love, of God's love, the love of God, divine love, is that you are loved and redemption is here right now when you receive that love, when you receive your identity in God and glory. And the one that feels like a sinner, the one that feels like, oh, but, it can say like, well, yeah, but I don't know how to receive that. And because out of that unworthiness comes the idea like I'm going to find some way to not receive that, and not knowing how to receive it, right? The glory is fresh, ever fresh. The eternal moment is ever fresh, and it's ever full of itself. It's like a wellspring, a source, spring that is just constantly bubbling and overflowing with goodness. And the heart of all beings is that wellspring. And it's just about connecting to that wellspring, connecting to the wellspring and receiving the overflowing goodness of God, the overflowing love of God. And the way that we connect is through being here now, just being here. And we're not looking for any kind of experience to achieve anything, to have something happen that tells us you are worthy, you are valid. My child, I see you, I accept you, I'm giving you a large gift or a gold medal, or like nothing happens in the realm of reward, because the reward is just here as the nectar of being, right? The reward is that you already are, and you don't need to know how to receive the love of God. In a way, it's just about cutting yourself off from it by thinking that there's a different way, right? So in a way, the receptivity is just in the presence field, in naturally just being here. The receptivity is just in being here and being open to receive. And being open to receive is being open to receive everything, right? So then in this moment, the open receptivity is to feel yourself here now, the presence of being here now. And in a way, the presence of being here can feel like that aware being, that kind of vertical axis we sometimes speak of. That awareness is here. Awareness is here. The sense of being is here. And then that horizontal axis is the flow of life. So how can I be here and be in life, like be connected to source and yet be in life? And so in this moment, to feel the presence and to recognize the sense of presence, of just being here, of being aware of what is, of moving and changing. And then in a way to like locate yourself here in time and space, locate yourself here in this moment, orient yourself. And for this you might even open your eyes and you might just look around. And it's like feeling the sense of God and glory, and yet looking around, not leaving the sense of presence, but by just orienting yourself here and feeling the sense of God and glory in everything. The same essence is in everything. So you locate yourself in the identity in God, and you locate yourself here now, but you don't actually identify with anything from a personal divided place, but you do orient yourself in this moment. You find yourself here, because as you find yourself here, you find yourself connected in the essence, the source. You're connected to source. And as you orient yourself, you don't leave that source, but you recognize that source is a wellspring that is creating everything. Everything is born of the same source. And you're just aware of the objects of experience, but you're not identified with any object of experience. And not being identified with any objects of experience is also not being identified with the thoughts, right? That you're aware of them, you see them, you touch them with presence, and you orient yourself within your landscape, but you stay rooted, anchored in your knowing, right? So that your identity in source, in God, in glory, in love is certain, and it's receptive, and it's not looking for an experience. It's just about being here. And then there's this magic that starts to include everything in your landscape and makes it worthy of being here. Every thought, every feeling, everything that is happening in your landscape is worthy of being here. So it's not a process of trying to push anything away that doesn't feel like it belongs, doesn't feel like it's spiritual enough, doesn't feel like it's holy enough, right? Doesn't feel like it's sacred, or I don't really want that to be there because it takes me out of my depth. It's like rooting in the silence, rooting in the presence, and then orienting yourself in whatever is happening in life. So this is true right here in this moment. And it's true in a moment where you're visiting with family, where you have visitors coming, where you have activity happening, that you find your rooted presence, your knowing, and then you orient yourself. And instead of feeling like you're being pulled away or taken out, you see God in it all. You see the same essence in it all. And you realize, wow, I could never leave myself. I could never leave this truth. And actually, as the wellspring, connected to source, as a wellspring of life, I actually give meaning to everything. I am actually the wellspring of source, and I like breathe life into everything. It's up to me what I make of everything. I can make it something dividing, I can make it something hard, or I can come into this incredible gratitude for this life and know that this moment can only belong to the one. How could it not? This moment belongs to the one, and the one is bringing this in. And when I am just grateful for this and I connect to the wellspring, then I'm connected to the power that loves it all, that just sees it all. And I breathe life and meaning into my life from source. I breathe life and meaning from a source that is glorious and isn't divided, isn't limited, that is abundant and full and rich. And then I can just be in the gratitude, and I have the power to give meaning to whatever is happening here. I don't need to follow the stories of lack and division. I can include everything. And in a way, it's a kind of reframing or redefining, but not with identity, right? It's reframing and redefining everything in the frequency of one, in the frequency of love, in the frequency of the glory, right? Because that then allows us to receive the fullness of life without division happening. Anything and everything that's happening, this is where we speak of that beautiful fear, right? Because we realize, well, this is arising in a field of God and glory. And so if I don't make fear something I'm afraid of, and I am grateful for and I welcome fear, and I allow fear as a frequency, I realize that nothing is touching my wholeness. Nothing is capsizing God. Nothing is capsizing or tainting the blueprint of my consciousness as a child of God. That my belonging in God is certain. My belonging to God and love is certain. And if I just rest here and keep receiving and including and am grateful for it all, I have this possibility to deepen my connection to my belonging to God and glory, to love, to the supreme. I have the possibility of recognizing the omnipotence of God, and just to really feel the frequency of what is coming forward here. That when we bow to, let's say in pure devotion, like we give ourselves to, okay God, I receive your love, I hand myself over to my highest self, to my divine self, to the fullness of the glory of all that I am. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that looks like, but I hand myself into the fullness of being one with the one. And now I'm recognizing the omnipotence. I'm recognizing the golden, the glory. And as I recognize that, I receive the frequency rush of the omniscience, of the unified field, of the field that is one field, one essence. And I then recognize the omnipresence, the unquestionable presence of God and glory in everything. And I orient myself in God, and nothing here in this reality, nothing here in God's creation can take me away from God, because it's all God. And when I'm resting here, this is the truth and the glory. This is the living reality. And all that is ever being asked of me is, will you accept my love? Will you accept? Will you accept this outstretched hand? Will you accept that you are wired for freedom, that you are wired as a child of God, and that you don't need to strategize in order to come? This is where we then connect into what we might call the heart sankalpa, what the heart knows to be true, right? The heart sankalpa, the deepest heart sankalpa is that the heart knows the belonging to God and glory. The heart knows the reality, the belonging to love. Because if the heart didn't already know this, we wouldn't long for it. We wouldn't seek for it. We wouldn't explore and try to learn about it and grow into it, because we wouldn't, if we didn't know about it, there would be no impulse for it. So the heart's truest sankalpa is that it knows, and it longs to be fulfilled in its knowing of its own truth, of its own source, of its own living reality, its own goodness, right? Yeah. And so then when we touch into, well, what is my heart sankalpa? We receive some flavor frequency of our sankalpa of heart that knows that it's longing for its oneness with God, knows that it's longing for oneness with reality. And then wherever our consciousness is, we attune with that heart sankalpa that is in a way, it connects us to faith. It connects us to a kind of knowing of our heart, of what we long for, what we could say we even hope for, what we're inspired towards. That in that we're opening to a frequency of heart that is leading us, guiding us deeper into our own heart's knowing. It's like a heart intelligence thing going on, right? Where the heart knows, where there's a sense of more of a personal heart that thinks that it doesn't know, but we can attune to a certain sense of knowing, right? And we can even have another layer of creating intention from a place of like, okay, what I want my heart sankalpa to be is this. Like creating intention of what we long for, what we hope for. And these kind of dimensions and layers are where we get this possibility to breathe life into life, our life, where we get to express from the connection to source, from what the heart really truly knows, and in a way to call upon all of the areas of our life to align here, to come here, to come to the wellspring and drink, right? You thirsty, you drink, right? That the wellspring is a place where there is abundant flow. If you're thirsty, if you're hungry, you come and you are nourished here. And what is here? Here is here now. just being here now. You come here and you are nourished here. You drink, you receive the nourishment. You quench, you receive, you are given from that which is ever giving, all giving, unlimited, no end, no lack, right? And you get to drink from here, right? And as you drink from here, the bliss nectar, the light frequencies that you're drinking in here, that you're being infused in and that you're choosing to drink in, are shifting the consciousness into the repatterning and recognition of the pure consciousness, repatterning into like such a deep divine nourishment that allows that sense of deepening into yourself and like, oh, wow, I thought deepening was this thing that I had to do, but actually deepening is just being here and receiving my own depth. Wow, my own depth is already here. My own fullness is already here. And it's not about doing something or proving myself. It's about being here so deeply that I can feel and recognize and receive my own depth, my own beauty. And I can receive the frequencies that are nourishing of grace and glory, of love and my own true identity in God and glory. And then I can make worthy. From here, I can make worthy all of the places that think they are unworthy, but not as a project for the future, but in an actual immediate revelation that there is nothing that is unworthy of the love of God. And that unworthiness just can't hold its story substance. The whole sense of I've done something wrong can't hold its sense of truth or as a reality unless there's a divided sense of self to maintain that story, to keep it going, right? And the way that the separate sense of self keeps it going is by constantly believing in limitation and feeding the story of limitation with a story of all this work I have to do on myself to make myself better, and then I'll be worthy of God. So can you feel that mechanism? That mechanism of the one that feels to be in time and space and a project, that this life is a project, that I have to prove myself, work hard, process all my stuff, keep finding new strategies and new ways to be worthy of God, keep finding ways to come out of hiding, come out of denial, come out of suppression, come out of repression, how to surface the unconscious into the conscious. But actually, it's not a doing process. It's an illumination thing. It's a brilliance, radiance thing. And it's about embodying the frequency of the light, of the omnipotent light of God and glory, and recognizing the true power that we have when we're plugged into Source, that we are the power to breathe life into life, to give life to life, to be the flow of life as a wellspring, as a freshness, as an aliveness, as an eternal now, right? That we're not a stagnant pool of human conditioned life, right? We're not a stagnant pool that needs to be purified. And yet, the more that we rest in this knowing, our life will be purified, right? In fact, way beyond our life will be purified, right? The creation will be purified, where we recognize the glory of let's say the glory of God, the glory of wholeness, of divine wholeness, is the glory of the integral whole, the union of the divine masculine, feminine, the divine Mother Father, the divine Shiva Shakti, the divine union is an integral wholeness that is always whole and has never been divided and has never played out power imbalances. It's a total, harmonious, integral flow of wholeness, right? This is what God is, what the frequency of God and glory is. And as we rest in this frequency, right? As we rest here, we are a frequency that is purifying all of our life, not by processing and doing, but through an incredible transmission of light frequencies from the field, like a repatterning of consciousness, a repatterning that the intelligence, the wisdom light is reorganizing all by itself, right? The mind would never believe, because the mind consciousness doesn't have the capacity to understand that. Like, it can understand it on a certain level through conceptualizing it and saying, no, I do get that. And sure, that's valid within the realms of what the mind can grasp. But what the intelligence has a capacity for is so much more refined. And so then, as these words are coming and the transmission of light is happening in our field, and we are infusing, soaking in it as we just rest here, do nothing, just be open, receive. As we're receiving and infusing, the field of intelligence is repatterning itself right now, right? And the way that you start to notice that is that you start to access revelation. You start going, oh yeah, wow, huh, right? So in this moment, right, just for fun, just notice where you started and what was alive in your field, right? And just notice, do you even remember what was alive in your field, right? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Does what was alive in your field need the same kind of action that you thought that it might need? Can you notice how everything that you brought forward in your field is actually being supported and guided in the field? And there's no strategy, technique, or doing involved. And yet, the intelligence is not outside of you. The consciousness is not outside of you. This is a field of one. And in a way, you offered, like through the realms of consciousness, you brought to the surface what was trying to surface out of the unconscious, or just what was alive in your field. You accessed it through the human experience, and you magnificently brought it forward so that we could enliven the field together. And then as we enliven the field together, the field of intelligence that we are all made of, equally the same, that we're made of, starts to work upon itself and starts to reorganize and repattern itself. And it's working as one whole, and yet it's working uniquely in your consciousness. Each of our consciousness is being upgraded and recalibrated and reorganized right now, according to what we brought forward as an offering, as an opening. And then how we notice that our intelligence is online is we just start recognizing that revelation, insight, we just start feeling different. We start seeing things because we're resting. We're resting in the field of light, intelligence, and transmission, where our own consciousness is feeding us and nourishing us. And we could say we're drinking from the wellspring of the divine. And as we drink from the wellspring, the things that we thought we were thirsty for are suddenly feeling a little more quenched, right? And we don't maybe need action in the way that we thought we needed action, because the intelligence is really efficient. It's really efficient, and it starts to move within itself, and uniquely within each of us, our own unique field of consciousness and laws of nature are being recalibrated. And we just start to feel different. Just to notice that, let's just pause here for a moment. And as you pause here, feel the depth of your resting and orient yourself in the way that we're speaking of. Locate yourself here. Locate yourself in the field and receptivity of the wellspring of source and the love of God. And locate yourself in time and space, in the room that you're in, where you're sitting, what you can see, how you feel, right? Are you a little warm, perhaps? Right? Just locate yourself and just really feel yourself, all of yourself in this moment as we pause. Yeah. And as you locate yourself, as you orient yourself here in this moment, notice that you don't leave the depth of being, you don't leave the divine nourishment. That the nourishment is like a flow in the field of being, in the field of just being here now. You can feel the stillness, the silence, the presence field that's unmoving and unchanging as an awake, aware field. You can feel yourself to be one with that. And yet you can also feel a kind of aliveness, a flow. Sometimes we speak of this as like the heart's knowing, or where the being knows its own beingness. There's a quality of knowing that's not of the mind. It's an activation of the intelligence of the heart's knowing, and the heart is a field of love, of presence. It's an activation of the field of the heart's knowing, is an activation of the recognition of the flow. So you can feel the stillness, the silence, the peace, the unmoving nature, and yet you can feel the flow of life. And as you feel the flow of life, you feel like the anchor and the rootedness in the being, in the silence, in the stillness. And the flow of life are one. And as you feel that rooted, anchored truth, you feel the flow of life. And as you orient and locate yourself in that flow of life right now, you realize that nothing can take you out of this deep-rooted knowing. Whatever's happening, whatever activity, whatever action, whatever relational dynamics are happening, nothing can actually move this rooted knowing, this rooted, deep, nourishing connection to source. And the more that recognition as a knowing is online, here's an important piece, right? As that recognition is online, it activates the recognition of the field that is the unity consciousness. As that heart knowing comes online, it activates and recognizes that all of life is the same intelligence, the same flow of intelligence. This is the unified field. And the unified field arises out of the one source. Whatever creation appears as, it's arising out of the source, right? This is where we could even speak of like, okay, so creator and creation are one. The energy and the aliveness of opening to the field of pure potentiality and infinite possibility, the pure consciousness and beyond, let's say, right? Beyond consciousness into the wilds of God and integral wholeness, right? This is our knowing of the light that we are, the divine. This is where we would speak of the divine mother, of God, of the Lord, of wholeness. So just in this moment, just feel the frequency, just as it reveals itself to you of God, of glory, of the Divine Mother, of Brahman, of the Para-Brahman, of that which is beyond the beyond. The divine light. And that in some way, because you are made of this, now this creator flows as creation, as creativity. And out of this, from this source, comes the appearance of creation, right? So as we come into this presence of being and we root here in the silence, in the stillness, we are on some level of frequency, we're accessing pure truth, purity, divinity. We're accessing divine light. We're accessing pure, spotless love, right? Oh, it is vast. It is infinite, boundless, right? We access that wordless, unfathomable glory, right? We can't even put a sense of, let's say we wouldn't even dare to say, well, I don't feel that, I don't know it. It's like here we don't even dare. We don't even dare to speak. We just stay open and we let awe and wonder. We let awe and wonder and wild curiosity just be here in such a possibility, right? Because the field is always full of omnipotence. The field is always full of God and glory, right? It's our belief that we're divided from that that keeps us divided. God has never divided us, never cut us off, never separated us. In fact, God has given us the most incredible gift, has from the source, from the wellspring, the mother, from the womb of the mother that is divine and pure righteousness, has been birthed a blueprint of the child of God. And our consciousness and creation is absolutely that blueprint, the template, is the birth of the child of God. And in that birth of the child of God, there is an absolute likeness. It's not a situation, right? It's an in the likeness, oneness with. And this is the true reality. So what we're speaking of here is that the grace of the glory of the divine, of the divine wholeness, the unified whole, the integral whole, the pure light, is that it births this appearance of creation, and it births a divine blueprint, the divine child of God. So we sometimes have learnt to reference that as the Son of God, right? But it's the child of God. And that is present in every heart, every heart. So when we reference the heart's knowing in the presence of being, we reference the heart that knows itself. So let's say that when we reference the heart's knowing, we're usually, due to our human experience, referencing our heart's knowing by feeling in our human experience a personal heart. And then we access through being a sense of the heart's knowing, being, the beingness, like a sense of an intelligence that knows, that's beyond the mind's knowing. And so we access this sense of heart, personal heart, the heart's knowing, and through the heart's knowing, we access infinite heart. And as we access the field of infinite heart, that's the unified field, right? It's the unified field of all creation, right? So as we access through the heart's knowing the unified field of all creation, we're accessing unity consciousness, where the consciousness knows that the essence, nature, the substance of everything in this field of creation is the same. And the reason that we know that it's the same is because there's a deeper heart knowing, and that deeper heart knowing is the heart of God, that we're always connected to the heart of God. We're always connected to the love of God. We're always actually connected to our belonging to God, and we're connected through the blueprint of the child of God, right? It's always here. And as we open through the layers of intelligence of our consciousness, as we explore the landscape, we're accessing more and more refined ways of accessing the subtle body and activating that true recognition of the child of God, that what the I am is, right? The I am presence is the child of God, right? The I am presence, the presence of being, is the child of God. We access, and when we are resting in the I am presence, we are activating, and there's like an initiatory field of transmission that is bringing online what we are ready for in our consciousness as capacity, as like subtle body, as light body, right? And there's an intelligence that's moving it all. So this is what we are accessing when we access the heart's knowing. So we could say the sense of the divine mother or the divine father or the divine wholeness is the sense of that which is beyond, right? And we open through the transcendent field to the beyond, right? And yet everything in this reality is of the same frequency, is created by, is arising out of the wellspring of source, right? And as we access our heart knowing, we're accessing that field of unified consciousness where we are growing in our capacity as consciousness to recognize the oneness, to recognize the intelligence, the essence, nature in everything. And so what we're speaking of, this sense of feeling ourselves rooted, anchored in the being, in the knowing, in the silence, in the stillness, and then locating ourselves in the field of creation. When we're locating ourselves while we're anchored in the glory, in God's love, in the presence field, we're orienting and accessing both the omnipotence of God, like the beyond, the transcendence, but we're accessing then the frequency of the unity consciousness, the omniscience, and then we're accessing the omnipresence, the presence of the same essence of God and glory in everything, right? Everything, yeah. So just notice what is happening in your nervous system, because your nervous system is your consciousness, right? There's nothing to understand here. It's just to allow the transmission field of infusion as you rest here, just to reorient, repattern, and reorganize, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So then in this field, let's come into connection with the field of inquiry and curiosity and aliveness, right? And just feel how is your intelligence, your consciousness being repatterned and responding and enlivening in what is being shared here? Can you feel that the support and the nourishment of the divine is offering itself as a way of supporting what you are asking, what you are inviting, right? So this sense of, would I need to give everything up, let everything go in order to truly create, to truly enter the field of creativity, right? So just feel into, if what I'm holding on to that I've created is a creation of limitation that's been created and born out of my consciousness in limitation, do I have to let go of? It's like we don't actually have to let go of as a doing, but what if we open to a wider field of creative inspiration that allows a recalibration and an upgrading of our creation? As we deepen, we access a field, like the transmission field is a field of inspiration, of creativity, of infinite possibility. And with our mind, we can't even imagine what is possible. So if we open to the wild creative potential, the infinite potential of just resting here, we're accessing an intelligence, a consciousness that knows how to repattern itself. And in this unified field of creation will always bring into appearance the highest possibility for our evolution, right? Even when what it brings in seems like something challenging, it's the highest possibility because it will challenge all of the places that we want to limit ourselves and invite us to bust through the glass ceilings, right? And glass ceilings are so sneaky and subtle. They're not just like limiting beliefs and protections and conditionings. Glass ceilings are things that play as like habits, conditionings, addictions. These are all just glass ceilings, all just ways that we keep ourselves small by moving within patterns of limitation. And none of it is wrong because it's all innocently protective. And yet life is calling us to bust through by opening to a wider field of possibility that will rewire and repattern the field to bring in different possibilities, right?